Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a deep dive look into the full moon eclipse in Scorpio. This is our second full moon eclipse that has occurred throughout this 18-month session, this 18-month cycle. This 18-month cycle again started in January of 2022. We are coming to a culmination, a high point in the energy, a high point in all of our situations, a high point in our healing, a high point in understanding people's lies, people's bullshit, people's deception, and the things that they've been trying to pull over your eyes. Some of us are coming to a whole new level of where we're at in our healing process, and we are starting to illuminate certain strengths and certain energies into other people. And the main thing about this full moon, this eclipse energy, and all the transits that are leading into this week is that this is a full moon that is either going to be considered the consequences of your actions or taking back your personal power. And it really comes down to where you are at in the transits, where you are at in the process, where you are at in your personal karma, where this is all at in your chart. Now, why do I say consequences for your actions? Because of how certain energies started back at the last full moon eclipse. Back whenever we were in the summer, late spring, not quite summer yet, of 2022, May, and the things that had to get activated. Now, that full moon was not the activation moon. It was actually the new moon eclipse that happened in Taurus a few weeks earlier. That was April 29th to 30th, depending on where you're at in the world. We set intentions with the new moon. Intentions for new direction and new areas of hope and new desires and taking steps into our next journey, into our next way of being, into the next levels in our lives. We set intentions during that new moon. However, the intentions that we set, the desires that we spoke about, the feelings that came through, the decisions that were a part of it, they all started out as very, very hopeful. However, we weren't ready. We weren't ready. That was the first official eclipse of an 18-month cycle. Now, I say first official because there was technically one before that. An out-of-sight eclipse that happened in November, also in Taurus. However, that was an inkling. That was a preview that was giving us a glimpse of our direction, a glimpse of the path, a glimpse of what was to come in a single moment. The new moon eclipse that happened, we set intentions. But the full moon eclipse in Scorpio set the action. And because so many people had things coming through, they had intentions and hopes set in the energy, and we weren't ready for it. It required adjustment. It required an upgrade. It required a tune-up. It required a trade-in. It required infrastructure. It required something to be different. It required people to be different. People to be in different places. It required sacrifice. It required additional lessons in some way, shape, or form. I want to take a moment to compare that full moon and the energy that started a spur of cutting back, taking shape, building infrastructure, but the more than anything else, it was trimming the fat. The first inkling, the first showing of trimming the fat. If you are seeing the light, the reason you're seeing that is because I put my television on and I'm actually seeing just how much it's like causing like adjustments and reflection. I apologize. It's raining. This is the 6th time I have recorded the same episode. And we're getting to the end of the day. So I needed additional light. I put the TV on and I'm noticing like behind me, like how much the lights are changing. So hopefully that's not bugging anybody too much, and I apologize for any frustrations with that. Okay. So, when was that first full moon eclipse? Again, that was in May 2022, May 15th of 2022. That eclipse occurred right after 11 p.m. Central Time. It perfected at 25 degrees and 17 minutes. 25 degrees and 17 minutes. Nearly the exact same degree as what the full moon eclipse in Taurus, the outer sign eclipse at November of 2021. Basically the same degree as where we had the preview. The preview led to action. Here's the action. Here's the start of the full feature length film right here. Now, I don't know how many people remember the full moons from last year, and I actually don't know how many people truly remember how certain elements of astrology happen and how they'll continue, but there was a set of full moons that occurred 3 months where every full moon squared a planet, and that planet that got squared immediately afterwards turned retrograde. And by immediately, I mean like literally within 1 week to 3 weeks, depending on which one we're talking about. So let's take a look at this. The first one that occurred was the Libra full moon that happened Easter weekend. We had the full moon. That full moon was squaring Pluto. Pluto was right here at that 28-degree mark. So it was a 28-degree full moon in Libra, and it squared Pluto. A few weeks later, Pluto turned retrograde. Pluto turned retrograde during that new moon in Taurus. So some of the intentions that were set during that new moon were a spark in fear. It was a spark in transformation, a spark in change, but for a lot of people, there was a spark of fear. Because for a single hopeful moment, when Venus and Jupiter were in a conjunction during a Venus-ruled new moon, everyone had an overwhelming feeling of hope that things can go well, that we can take steps forward, we can go in a new direction. And we set intentions, we stated our plans, we stated our desires. And then after the full moon high was gone, I'm sorry, the new moon high was gone, reality started to set in. In the next full moon, this particular full moon in Scorpio that I'm showing right here, this one squared Saturn. And within a few weeks, Saturn turned retrograde. This was a halting. This was a halting in the energy. This was pumping the brakes. This was saying, oh, to make this change, we need more time. There's not enough time. And little bit more inklings of fear sunk in. A little bit more inklings of resistance. Some of us were hopeful and we were, talking about our plans and our ideas and how we're going to progress, and it's time to combine our households. It's time to, take on a new market. It's time to expand. It's time to grow. It's time to change. And Saturn said, but you're not ready. You're not ready. And little by little, the weeks that followed, there was hesitancy. There was slowing down. There were pumping the brakes. There was moments letting us know that the other person involved, who was a part of the intentions being set, they weren't ready. Some of them voiced that. Some of them said, I need more time to think. I need more time to plan. I need a change. I need more time to learn. I need more time to study. I need more time to train. I need more time. This isn't the right time. I know what I said. I know what we talked about, but this wasn't the right time. I'm not ready. I didn't realize that then, but I'm realizing it now. Did they say that during the eclipse? Nah. When did they say it? With the next full moon. That's Sagittarius full moon. That squared Neptune. That culmination energy led to a fog. It led to a cloud. It led to lies. It led to not being so honest and not being so clear. It led to tests of our faith and not being able to suddenly blindly have hope. We were left with confusion. The difference between the full moon in Scorpio and the other two not just because this was an eclipse, that's not the only difference, is the fact that this full moon, this eclipse, it touched Pluto, it touched Saturn, and it double touched Neptune. Why do I say that? Pluto is one of the rulers of Scorpio. Pluto had already been 3 weeks into its retrograde, basically, when the eclipse happened. This full moon made a sextile to Pluto. This full moon made a square to Saturn, and time started to slow down. This full moon was in a trine to Neptune as the traditional ruler of Scorpio, as Mars entered a conjunction. For you to get what the intentions you've set, for you to reach this point of desire, for you to reach this area, we have to cut through the unknown. We have to trim these areas that don't belong to us. We have to start taking additional corrective actions. And Mars started to do cutoffs after it went into Aries, after it made conjunctions to Jupiter, after it made conjunctions to Chiron. And what occurred after this full moon is between when Saturn turned retrograde and Uranus turned retrograde, we had moments of people hitting the brakes, people not moving forward, people not keeping their word, people changing their mind, people suddenly having illnesses and having to pivot and go in a different direction. Other people have had to take adjustments at their jobs. There was a whole slew of events. And by the time we got to August, areas that we were pushing for independence slowed down. Areas that we were pushing for innovation didn't happen. Areas where we had been so resistant to having impositions and having to make changes and having to do different things, by the time we got to August, we were finally going, well, fine, I'll quit fighting it. Here's the guest room, here's the bathroom, here's your keys. I didn't plan on having a roommate, but obviously there's no other choice. Here's your space. And by the time we got to August, an area where we were pushing for change and innovation met the brick wall, and we couldn't move anymore. We gave in, we made sacrifices, we quit pushing, we stopped asking, and we just went into waiting. We went into turtle mode. We went into our shells. We quit giving a fuck. We changed direction in some way, shape, or form. Some of that was because we needed the decisions of the others, whoever the other is, if it was a business partner, if it was a romantic relationship, or we needed the energies tied to that Mars retrograde to grab some people and force them to make adjustments, force them to make very specific adjustments, so that way change could follow. That Mars retrograde was very hectic for a lot of people. It stirred so many things. This last set of holidays, for some people, was the first time they were having holidays without a significant other, without their kids, without their family. Those holidays had a whole different theme and dynamic because the people at the table were either missing or different. Depends on what the situation was. Some people were spent those holidays alone for the first time. Those all culminated from a series of actions that tied to this full moon. We must trim, we must cut, we must adjust, we must make changes. Now, there's another thing about this full moon I want to bring up. This occurred again May 15th. Just a few days before, Jupiter entered the other Mars-ruled sign. And if you've listened to previous readings, I have said this multiple times, The actions of Jupiter through Aries since last year have required certain acts to be independent, hopeful, independent acts, motivational acts to go forward, building infrastructure, investing money, putting things in the right place. And if you didn't do the work and you didn't do the lessons, what started to happen was the opposite, as opposed to getting something built and getting something to the next level and doing certain amounts of work, whether it's spiritual work, whether it's mental health work, whether it's working on your marriage. If you didn't do those things, then what came through was something burning up, because Aries is a hot, reactive fire sign. If you, if you stayed still for too long, if you did not invest your time, if you did not invest your efforts, if you not learn the lessons and do the work, by the time we're getting to this point right now, you're going to be feeling the burn. You're feeling that burn because you didn't do the work. And now somebody else is coming through and calling you on your shit, catching you at your game, catching you at whatever you thought you were so slick to sneak through. Now, let's put something else up here. Chart and now. Let me bump this to the 5th, but then I'm going to bump this backwards by a few hours so the full moon's a little bit more exact. That'll work. Okay. This is May the 5th at 12:34 p.m. Central Time. Here is the full moon perfecting at 14 degrees and 58 minutes opposite the sun at 14 degrees and 58 minutes. I want to look at some of the similarities. The last full moon also began the spark between Mars and Neptune. You notice I just said spark. Mars and Neptune have been having a whole shindig since May of last year. And I've put a lot of emphasis on that Mars retrograde multiple times because of this. Because Mars made a conjunction to Neptune, a series of acts followed. Confusion followed. Mars got into Gemini, got all the way through its first square, made it to 25 degrees, froze in the sky. Neptune was going backwards, so actions were stated to overcome certain confusion, overcome certain ways of thinking, and then all of a sudden Mars turned retrograde and started to go back towards Neptune. And some people realize that statement of overcoming something, that statement of doing something, the idea that came through wasn't correct. Mars turned around and came back and re-entered its square to Neptune. At that time, and that would have been in November, December, there were moments of deep-seated confusion and rage. It was not a good time for people that have ever had substance issues because there were disruptions tied to that. There were inflammations in the body. There were people that were suddenly having very big migraine attacks, intestinal, lymphatic, nervous system attacks on the body. There were more accidents. There were more reactive energies. There were arguments that were coming through and emotions that were being abused to no extent. Now, I'm bringing all of this up because of the other transit involved with today. It's not today. The day I'm recording, it's not today, but you know what I mean? This particular full moon eclipse. Because Mars is not at play. It's not. This one, Mars was making a conjunction to Neptune, leading to a very set of confusing times. We're past Mars and its tie in Gemini and all those squares to Neptune. We had 3 of them. You've heard me refer to the shit show in March multiple times. And now we're in a different energy because we have Venus involved. But not only do we have Venus involved with this square from Neptune, but we also have the hopeful, supportive, corrective action of Jupiter. Now, I just said it a minute ago, that part of this eclipse is for a lot of people the consequences of their actions. It is the consequences of the things that they have done, the way that they have handled other people, the way that they have handled their business, the way that they can't keep their mouth shut, because when Mars was in Gemini, everybody was popping off at the mouth. Everybody was making waves on social media. Everybody suddenly had an opinion. And everybody was suddenly very, very tired of being deceived. Now, the one thing that I want to go back to, and this is just a funny thing, the one thing that I saw spark up super high during the Mars retrograde was these groups on Facebook saying, like, are we dating the same girl? Are we dating the same guy? And there's different groups like this in all these different markets. So, like, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Kansas City, Chicago, all of these different major cities, there's now these groups of either men supporting one another or women supporting one another. And they're coming up with, like, hey, I matched this person. Does anybody, like, red flags? Is there a problem? And the flood of stories that have come through. The flood of guys that are no longer able to pull deception and no longer able to play games. The flood of girls that don't have the ability to manipulate certain situations or do certain things to get a guy's attention just to go, here's my OnlyFans. No. No. Adjustments have been made. The intelligence has gotten better. The reality to certain situations is far more apparent. And the way that we protect ourselves after that Mars retrograde has grown tremendously. And it has grown because support. Supporting other women, supporting men, supporting each other in many, many ways to find healthier connections. And if we can't find healthy connections, we can at least tell somebody else not to go mess with somebody that's going to hurt them, deceive them, steal from them, hurt their children, hurt their family, break their bank account, tear up their home, whatever it is. There's been elements to now protect ourselves. Some people have still been in the moment of learning that level of protection. Others have been able to come through after spending all the time to do the work and do the healing and understand that protection. These people are now coming through going, oh no, baby, I got you. You're not needing to be confused. That's a lie. That's manipulation. And that's gaslighting. And the ones that keep getting caught are now dealing with the consequences of their actions. They're losing their people. They're losing their clients. They're losing their customers. They're losing money. They're suffering the consequences of their dishonesty, of their manipulation, of their energy. The ones that are now overcoming are regaining their personal power. They're feeling support from areas that they haven't felt support from for a long time, or if ever at all. They're getting support. They're finding their tribe. The ones that have been awakened for the last few years, they're the ones that are coming through having done the work, and they're the ones getting the support. They're offering that aid. They're helping those people overcome those narcissistic, manipulative, deceptive situations. There is support to get good, healthy people out of bad situations. And this full moon is truly a culmination point of one of two things: reclaiming your power, recognizing your power, if you've already been doing the healing and now you're taking something to the next level, or dealing with the consequences of your actions. So, I'm going to leave both of these up here. I'm going to bump this backwards by hour because I want the... Oh, I guess it's not going to do that, huh? Oh, I didn't think that part through. Anyways. Okay. There is an ascendant because of the way I did this, it's not going to move the whole wheel. That might be good for some people, but it can be a headache too. So for Aries and Aries rising, and I always say, listen to your rising sign and your sun sign. If you are a nighttime chart, aka you were born at night, listen to your rising sign and listen to your moon sign, because these energies will help you understand. Now, for Aries and for Aries rising, we are looking at a full moon in your 8th house. We are looking at a full moon in the house ruled by your other chart ruler. Pluto for you has just went into your 11th house of friends, network, colleagues, people that you share time with, people that you do business with, people that you network with, people that you volunteer your time to help or volunteer your time with. We are making an adjustment with how we connect to this area or the groups we are connected to. How are we doing that? Hopeful action. Pluto is in the 11th. That's the area that's being adjusted. Jupiter is in your first house. These next few weeks following this full moon eclipse that's going to happen again in your 8th house is going to lead to financial changes. Financial changes, putting your money in different places, spending your money in a different way, having to adjust certain things. Part of those adjustments are going to be coming down to because of the disruption at home, Mars in your 4th. Now, this disruption can go a couple of different ways. The disruption can be having to take out a loan or take out your last installment in regards to like a renovation loan, because you take out draws. And it is going to be certain energies towards finishing a project, finishing something at home, finishing a renovation, finishing some level of infrastructure that is being built. If the infrastructure that you've been building is more in regards to the consideration of others, so it's your clients, it's making a financial change, whether that is employing more people, going into a different market and expanding your market, whether it is taking more time to do your new business in a different way. There is an adjustment coming that is going to benefit you financially if you've done the work properly. I apologize. Allergies are killing me today, I swear. Jupiter's about to go into your 2nd house of money. You have had very hopeful, albeit in some ways inflated, ideas of how to do something. Something in your career, something in your public image, something in regards to your business and everything in this area. And you're doing this because you're either trying to pay off a debt, you're trying to earn more money for your family, or you're just trying to, have all the money in the world, because sometimes we're just greedy. I need you guys to be very, very aware that these hopeful actions that you are taking, because Jupiter is in your 1st, can also be inflating your ego. And you will not know the full consequences of that inflated ego for a while. Understand that you will still need to do the work even after the idea plays out. If you're, going into a new market and you're paying for all of the marketing that's going to go into the new market, so to speak, then you have to continue those ads and you have to show up to your jobs. You have to do these steps to take things forward. You have to keep doing the actions. It's very, very easy after Jupiter's been in your 1st house for a while to get real complacent and kind of get back on your lulls because everything's been going great for so long. The thing is, Jupiter's about to leave your 1st and Saturn just entered your 12th. That's where he'll be for 3 years. You are starting since March, you started in March, you are starting what is arguably considered your 8.5 years of bad luck. Be very mindful in your inflated ideas, your inflated hopes, and the actions that you are taking right now. You need to be mindful of it. And you need to continue to do the work even after eclipse season is over. Okay. For Taurus and Taurus rising, I don't even know why I'm going to keep doing that, but just have it, I guess. So here's the ascendant in the sign of Taurus. This is a full moon in your 7th. Your obligations to others, your marriage, relationships. This is, for a lot of Taurus risings, this is results of divorce, finalizing a divorce, letting something go, and trying to move on and get into new ways of doing things. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm looking at the full picture. You have now had a moment of fear in regards to your public image. And if it hasn't been fear, then it's been regaining your personal power. To regain that personal power, though, that means we have to full on take steps away from certain individuals, from the people that shouldn't be a part of this, from the people that no longer are meant to be in your journey. They no longer fit the needs of where you're going in life. You no longer fit the needs of where they're going in life, and an adjustment has needed to be made. Pluto is in your 10th house of career and public image, your hopes and dreams for the future. And it was a pinky toe dip for you to have the picture perfect future that you are starting to see and you're starting to imagine, you're starting to come through. That means we have to separate from something in some way. Jupiter is in your 12th house. It is ensuring for you to get the growth and changes that you're wanting to happen next, for you to have the adjustments and the upgrades in regards to home and family that's coming later this summer. Then we have to let something go. We have to let someone go. Many of you are ending an obligation. Many of you are paying off one house to move into another. Many of you are seeing where something has to change for the betterment of someone else. It's not even necessarily for ourselves. It's for the betterment of somebody else. We need them to get better away from ourselves. Uranus in your 1st house means much of what the actions are taking you is to gain more independence, to gain more growth in your personal trajectory, and to have more things moving forward. You have exciting ideas, you have inspiration, but you have been held back by something or someone. It is time to quit allowing yourself to be held back. Okay. For Gemini and Gemini risings, this is a full moon in your 6th house. How you care for yourself, how you care for other people, how you have been handling your work, how have you been of service to others, how have you been handling your business, how have you been taking care of your own personal health, specifically with Gemini risings, your sexual organ health. Have you been doing the right things? Have you had certain things come to the surface that has required medical attention? There have been adjustments in a certain area. And the thing is right now, Gemini risings more than anybody, you are really seeing the consequences of your actions. Truly with Gemini risings, it's you guys more than anybody. Now, why do I say that? Venus is in your 1st house. We like Venus energy in our 1st. Everybody's showing us more attention. We're vibing. We looking good. We feeling good. That's good energy. However, Venus is in mutual reception with Mercury, your chart ruler, in your 12th house. In the unknown, in the unseen, in the ending area, shit behind your back, in this area of karma. That Mars retrograde in your 1st house, for many Gemini risings, resulted in one of two energies. It resulted in huge disruptions in your mental health, in your physical health. It brought previous life decisions back to full force, especially if you had hard things going on back in like 2008 to 2010, any hard medical issues from back then have came back full circle. There has been a whole slew of activations bringing something to the surface. Now, some of the people with the Mars retrograde, they weren't going through health issues, and they weren't having the attacks on their personal self, and they weren't necessarily being the aggressive, verbal, raw. It was more along the lines of telling lies and deception and not being honest. If you were in the raw stage, and I'm saying raw as in roaring, if you were growling and you were in the raw stage, you are finding ways to take back your personal power. You are finding ways to heal. You are learning the true depths of past decisions and how they are now taking a toll on you, especially if those are health things. You are wrapping up certain litigation or legal matters that are going to impact you in some ways in a negative way, in some ways in a positive way. It really comes down to, again, your personal karma and how you have been handling other people. But some of you are having your lies, the lies that you had got very, very comfortable in telling, they're now coming to the forefront. They are now coming full circle. And you are about to have a hard karmic lesson in experience, and the experience that you have given other people, and how that is about to start to affect you moving forward. There are a few signs that are getting very, very close to spiritual growth. You have the capability of exactly that between now and the end of the summer and the end of that Venus retrograde. There's meant to be a shift in our mindsets into a certain direction. However, some of you, it is literally going to be having to now recognize and change the plan and deal with the consequences of what you have done, who you have hurt, who you have lied to, and who you need to make amends with. Because if you don't make amends, then there's another part of the karma that you deal with later. If you weren't being honest, then it's time to be honest. Don't deny, especially if you get caught. And who's going to probably catch you? Jupiter in your 11th. A friend, colleagues, you said too much to too many people, and now it's coming back full circle to bite you in the ass. The thing about our friends and our soul tribe is that's just it. They will call you on your shit, especially when you deserve it. Okay. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you have one of the rulers of this eclipse in your first house. You have Mars in your first. Not only is it the ruler of this eclipse, but it's also the ruler of your 10th house of career where Jupiter's at. My Cancer risings are truly taking life in their own hands. They are taking their job, they are taking opportunities, they are looking at the idea of additional education or additional travel, and they are putting a more serious emphasis on that because they can see exactly where they're going to benefit from it. Having Mars in your first with a 5th house eclipse feels like, for many of you, a shift in your luck. How does that shift come through? Regretfully, through the loss or elimination tied to another. I'm saying that in very specific words. Tied to another. You can suddenly have a promotion because somebody else quit. You can suddenly have a new job opportunity because of a layoff. You could suddenly be given a whole different avenue in life from an unsuspecting person, an unsuspected, an unrecognizable or an unexpected place, not necessarily one that you were planning on. There is an opportunity that is going to take you to the next level very, very soon. For Cancer risings, having had so many things hold you back, so many things over the last year that have just been triggering everything, it is time for opportunities to finally fall into place. And after this eclipse, opportunities are going to be very, very grand for Cancer risings. The other factor can be is if you were in the manipulation side, if you were in the lies, if you have not been honest with everybody and you thought you were pulling the wool, guess what? You're not. You will also have the consequences of your actions to deal with. You will also have to deal with wherever you have compromised people's money or their savings, or where they were going for the future, because the other aspect of Jupiter going through the 10th is if you didn't do the positive work and you didn't do the sacrificial side of things during the Mars retrograde, then certain financial opportunities are burning up right in front of you. Be aware of both. There can be opportunities from somebody else's loss. There can be opportunities from your own loss. Depends on the lessons that are necessary at the time. Okay. For Leo and Leo risings, this is not an easy eclipse for you. The last year has not been easy for you, especially when it has come to your connections with other people. There have been opportunities in relationships, opportunities in partnerships. There have been adjustments in this area. And at one point last year, the decision was made to take something to the next level or to break up completely. And that decision was not committed to 100%. Now, if the decision was to take something to the next level, what could have happened is based off health or personal issue or family or whatever, that partner, business or romantic, suddenly couldn't keep their word, suddenly couldn't commit, suddenly couldn't agree to this opportunity. And you had to take a step back and you had to wait it out and you've had to see how things are going to play out, because that Saturn-Uranus square was going between your 7th and the 10th. So much of where we were going for future and much of where we were wanting to go next in life, we weren't making the decision. We were waiting on somebody else to make theirs. Now, some of you Leo risings are waiting to hear the outcome of a job opportunity for a partner. Some of you are waiting to hear the outcome of a lawsuit and something that's being, I don't want to say navigated, negotiated. That's the other word I was thinking of. There are negotiations. There are things going back and forth. Some of you are wrapping up certain levels of training and education because they're going to benefit you in the future. And that benefit comes after Jupiter goes into Taurus. If you haven't been able to get things going with that business partner because for whatever reason they couldn't take steps forward, life was too heavy for them, life was too much for them, then you're waiting on the terms of something new, of a new direction. You're waiting on the adjustment in the energy. You're waiting on a decision from somebody else. And again, that decision is either going to result in a certain amount of karma and the consequences of your actions. Some of this is going to result in a breakup and an adjustment and leaving certain people behind and no longer calling home home. Some of you are having to deal with the medical results of a family member, a matron specifically would be a female family member, and what's going on with them. No matter what, if it's a business situation, if it's a family situation, if it's a relationship situation, you have been waiting on the decision of another, the outcome of another. And no matter what, there is going to be some level of sacrifice or cut off to go back to the drawing board before you can regain your independence and before you can get your hopeful steps that you were wanting to take a year ago to finally move forward. You have an entire retrograde in your first house coming later this summer. All of the events right now are leading to that retrograde. And for Leo risings, baby, it's a facelift. It's going to be huge in regards to your ego and your public image. It's going to allow for certain things to come forward, and it's going to allow for you to test the resilience of all that you've done in career, in the future, in your public image. For you to get to that place, sacrifices, endings, cutoffs, finalizing negotiations, payoffs are necessary. Breakups, divorce, for a lot of people, very necessary. Okay. For Virgo and Virgo risings, many of you have been having a lot of issues and frustrations and dealings in regards to your work, in regards to your routine, in regards to how you interact with other people's money, how you are making money, and that Mars retrograde that was in your 10th house of career and public image has resulted in you really rethinking where you're going in career. Many of you have tried to pull certain things into your energy so that way you could be more independent. You could take more hopeful, independent actions in regards to how you connect to clients and their money. Many of you have been building infrastructure and putting emphasis on certain things in business to go a certain way. However, to get them to go there, it's going to also require some additional knowledge. It's going to require some additional education. It's going to require another level of experience and another level of learning that you haven't had. And for many of you, it's going to be spiritual learning, spiritual growth, and spiritual changes that occur between this eclipse axis and the next eclipse axis and the Venus retrograde, but the eclipse axis will follow Venus retrograde. So some of you are about to start traveling. Some of you are taking on new ideas of traveling. Some of you are taking on education. Some of you are finally getting to go do certain levels of education or travel or training that you wanted to do a year ago, but you couldn't because money wasn't right. You couldn't because work wasn't acting right. You couldn't because the commitments that were made to you were not held up from other people, from that employer. You didn't make your bonus. You didn't get that final paycheck. You got laid off. And now the hustle mentality has taken over, or the need for new connections has truly taken over, and they're starting to pivot you into new directions and new ways of doing things and towards new directions in life. Many Virgo risings are having a lot of issues with friends, with colleagues, with people in the workplace. And they're either going to get to a point that they're going to leave that workplace, they're going to be forced to leave that workplace, or they're going to be able to break away from the toxicity that has been so dominant since last year. And the way that they're doing that is by retaking control, retaking career, retaking these areas, and gaining more control over them. Many of you are also having your own plights and your own actions tested. And many of you are coming very, very close to a dark night of the soul. If it's not necessarily a full dark night of the soul, because many of you have already had at least one, then what you're going to experience is a spiritual tune-up and a spiritual set of lessons and karmic lessons that are coming through over the summer. And all of these are meant to help you regain your personal power. If it's not regaining your personal power, it's for you to deal with the karmic consequences of your actions. It all depends on, again, where you are in your own personal karma, in your own personal growth, and in your charts. Okay. For Libra and Libra rising, so here's the ascendant in the sign of Libra. This is a full moon in your second house of money, assets, the things that you value, the things that hold value, your personal values, Anything that you tangibly have purchased, anything that you would tangibly sell, would all be tied to that second house. The second house is an extension of you. The rulers, plural, of this eclipse are in two areas. One is in your fifth house: love, luck, romance, happiness, joy, children, behaviors tied to childhood. The other ruler is in your 10th house of career, public image, your hopes and dreams for the future, the direction and path you're going in life, where you're meant to shine the most in this life. Many Libra risings are about to have to make career adjustments because the original offering, the original financial plan, the original idea didn't make sense. They couldn't keep their word. They couldn't keep it up. You were sold a dream to be given dream whip. Like, it doesn't match. It's not fair. It's not correct. For others, you're about to make a whole different set of decisions because you are having to make decisions based off of a partner. Some of you, your partner has had their head up their ass. Some of you, your partner has been nothing but an inflated ball of ego, and it's starting to wear on you. They've been overspending. They've been saying things that don't make sense. They've been doing things that don't make sense. They are starting to do things that are testing your health. They're adding stress to your routine. You're feeling the weight of their bullshit in your body. And it's infuriating. It is frustrating. All the disruptions to your routine, everything that you've been working on, everything that you're wanting in regards to work and career, you're seeing a decision as being forced upon you. Many of the Libra risings, it is not your decision. It is based off other people and their actions. And you making certain decisions will be regaining your power. It will be taking luck and happiness and putting the control back into your hands with Pluto in your fifth. Transmute, transform, overcome. If you've been triggered, find out why. We fix, we heal. Where's the fix coming from? Probably an outside source. Because Jupiter is in your 7th house. Relationships, partnerships, marriage. Many Libra risings are finally seeing the opportunity for the very first time to see happiness. You're seeing the growth and the change and the transformation of your children, and it's filling you up because of how well they're coming through, how well they are adjusting. And you are feeling good from it. And not only are you feeling good from it, other people are telling you the kids are doing so good. You should be so proud. You have got to be happy. This is amazing. And that boost of confidence and support from the other is reaffirming exactly everything that you've done. It's reaffirming the ideas that are in your mind. It's reaffirming that where you go next and how you do things in the future and how you want things to go in regards to marriage, in regards to career, in regards to your money and your shared assets. Those things have to be done a certain way. Now, if it's the other side, again, most Libra risings are having to deal with somebody else. The inflated ego of another, a spouse, a boss, and them saying, oh, everything is great and we are making so much money and we are finally profitable and everything will be wonderful. But then you look at your paycheck and it ain't so wonderful. You look at your bank statements and they don't line up to what your spouse has said should be in the bank account. And a lot of Libra risings are suddenly seeing that in one way, shape, or form, the wool has been getting pulled over your eyes. And you are learning very frustrating lessons through active experience. Break away, regain your power. Do not put up with abuse, do not put up with the manipulation, and do not put up with other people's bullshit. Okay. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, babies, this is us. This is us. And the thing about all of the power of this eclipse is the fact of there's interesting conditions for both of the rulers. Pluto in Aquarius in the fourth house. We are making changes in ourselves so that way we can have a better life for family, that we can transform certain areas connected to family. Some of us have been taking on renovations and doing certain projects. Others are starting to see exactly where their life path is taking them. This eclipse, where it's the consequences of actions for anyone else, or it's taking back personal power for many of the Scorpio risings, it's something else in all the way around. It's being the support that others need. It is being that beacon of hope and support of how to transmute their problems, how to overcome the lies, how to overcome the manipulation. Because the thing about Scorpio risings is that South Node has been in the first house since January of 2022. That is over a year. That is 14 months of not leading with the ego, because the South Node is the body of the dragon. There is no head. And we have all had changes in our physical form. We've eliminated certain habits. We've eliminated certain ways of doing things. We've eliminated things that put weight and pain and pressure, not power, but pressure on our body. And the more we have done that fine tuning in the work, the more that we have built the infrastructure towards spiritual growth, put the emphasis into financial growth, put the emphasis into caring for ourselves differently. That way it allows for us to care for others in a better way, has been restorative in so many ways for Scorpio risings. And we have the ability to help others regain their personal power. We have the ability to help others understand how to see the deception and see the lies and see the underbelly, because as a fixed sign, there is still duality to Scorpio risings. We can go into the depths of the underworld and come back changed, not harmed, but strengthened. We transmute energy better than any other sign. And our duality is long-term duality. It's fixed. Pluto in Aquarius, much more trauma is known. Much more of people's abuse and things that have been going on behind closed doors for the last few years is being voiced. It is coming out in the open. It is coming to the surface. And all of the work that our particular sign has had to deal with is finally starting to make sense. Because the more we have done our own internal work and worked through our own fears and our own trauma, the more people have started to come to us. I feel like I can come to you. I feel like you can help me. I feel like I feel like you're here and you're in it and you are a part of this. You have the ability to help people help themselves. You have the ability to call out those people that are abusing power and take that power from them. You are fearless. Saturnian people think that they're like the bosses. No. Plutonian people, we don't need attention. We don't need recognition. We don't need anything. Not compared to the others. Much of us have had a series of events going into this eclipse, going into this full moon, that has been testing our resilience. Trigger after trigger, trauma after trauma, situation after situation. And so much of it was unexpected. It was unplanned. It was only in the last few days has it come to the surface? Has it come about? Has it come full circle? And it's not even our things to deal with most of the time. It's usually been somebody else. This whole Mercury retrograde in the 7th house has been us watching everybody else lose their mind, lose their shit. Communication issues constant and galore with how we communicate with certain people. We're getting over those. We're voicing the change. We're catching people in their bullshit. We're calling them all their bullshit. We're telling them we will not put up with your abuse and your power struggle and your ego-centric situation anymore. You either grow or you deal with the consequences. You either fix it or we'll fix it for you. If you need help, we will help you. And many of us Scorpio risings, we are the support to the people that must regain their power. For them to regain their power, for them to regain their strength, they have no idea how to grab it and how to continue in strength for a long-term time period, but we do. Better than anybody else, Scorpio risings do. Anyone that has come into your energy in the last week needing help, needing support, that was the universe saying, show the world how far you've come. Show them all where you're at and where you're ready to go next. Progress is key. Okay. Oh, for Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings, here is the ascendant in your first, well, in Sagittarius. This is a 12th house eclipse. The unknown, the unseen, endings, things behind your back, karma, the things that we're not expecting, hollow ground, shaky ground, new ground, uncharted territories. There is something that is meant to happen that was not a part of the plan. It was not a part of what we were anticipating. And the thing about Sagittarius risings is you're still dealing with the effects of that Mars retrograde in your 7th house. Now, many of you, that Mars retrograde in your 7th house was a true karmic test of your relationship. For others, that Mars retrograde was having to be the support and the hopeful helper and the support at home for family, for your partner, in regards to a loved one, in regards to a certain situation that was going on for them. What you had to deal with was the backlash. It was the frustration. It was their drama. It was their situation. It was their karma in some way, shape, or form. Many of you, that Mars retrograde in your 7th house led to a very different partner than you started last year with. And you saw the change, and you saw a different person come through. You thought you married, or you thought you were committed to one person, and you got a whole different energy, a whole different person. You had test upon test in regards to legal matters over and over again. And the thing is, for many of you, those tests are now leading to either understanding how much money it cost you, understanding what it's going to cost you in the long run, or it's making you find certain secrets. I say secrets for a reason. The ruler of Scorpio, again, Pluto and Mars. Mars is in your 8th house. Secrets. Other people's money. Investments. You can literally open the bank statement and suddenly find that you don't have all the money in your account that you're anticipating. You could have been sneaking around because you have been tired of that other person's shit, and all of a sudden they're finding out what you have done. I don't blame you in many ways. I'm not a judgment person anyways. But now you have to deal with the consequences of that. Many of you are dealing with a partner that has had horrible issues in regards to legal matters, in regards to, baby mama drama, in regards to, um, you know, crazy exes or stalkers or something like that. And now you're feeling that full effect and you're seeing just how much damage not only did that do to you on the outside in the peanut gallery side, but what it did to them and where your partner needs healing and where they need to work on certain things. And if they're not willing to do the work, then it's going to force you to make a decision. Many of you are also having to deal with the fact that that person has lied to you. They have stolen from you. They've taken things from you. They've taken advantage of you. They have made you lose parts of your self-worth. And this eclipse is you making a final decision to let somebody go, to leave something behind, to no longer put up with the bullshit, no longer put up with the lies, no longer put up with the drama, no longer put up with all of the different things that you have put up with for the better part of a year. You are done. Done, 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 done. That decision, Pluto, in your third, is meant to help you regain your personal power. And the way that you will do that will be through support. Through the supportive actions of another, through the supportive actions of the church, through the supportive actions of your clients, through the supportive actions of your work friends and your colleagues, people tied to your childhood, people that are from your hometown. You will have areas of support in ways that you did not understand, that you did not expect. But you are also going to have to do a lot of work over the next year to overcome the hump of that energy. Letting that go is going to test your heart. It is going to test your faith. It is going to test your health. And it is going to require sacrifice, more sacrifice than just letting that go. Because more than likely, the people you are walking away from, that area that you are letting go, it's going to come with a fight. If it's a divorce, it's a legal battle. If it's a partnership breakup, lawyers are involved. Some of you, it's also going to require faith, tests in the church, leaning into the church, leaning into spiritual gurus, leaning into certain people that can help you transmute the energy. And that, again, is going to be into the support. Okay. Bump this along. Here's the ascendant in Capricorn. So for the one time the wheel looks correct, I apologize. I would change the window, but I did that on one of the other readings of the 50 million I recorded this time. And that's what didn't process, was going from one set of screens to the other. So here you go, Capricorn and Capricorn risings. Babies, this is a full moon in your 11th house. Friends, network, colleagues, the people that you do business with, the people that you have networked with. We just went past a full moon in your 10th house of career, and for you to get to where you need to go next in the work that's involved, in where you have needed to take certain things back, it is going to require a change, but I don't think for all of you that the change is going to be as easily recognizable as it is for others. For some of you, it's ending a friendship. Maybe it's a roommate situation. Maybe it's a work colleague that has not been carrying their weight at work, and it results in a firing. That firing isn't necessarily yours per se. It results in you having to take on something new at work, you having to step up and take new responsibilities at work. Are you taking them all during the full moon? No. It'll be in the days and weeks that follow. And the full benefit of that will not hit many of you until the end of the summer. Some of you, the relationship that will end here is not necessarily as personal as that. Well, that's not so personal, as impersonal as that. Some of you are having to make an adjustment in regards to your home life. Maybe you've had a roommate. Maybe you've had somebody, living with family for a while, and it is starting to impact the health of your family and the health of everything else going on. And the only way to get things back in order is going to be walking away from somebody. For others, there have been big tests in regards to love and relationships. And Mars in your 7th has made you take a harder look at a certain connection, at certain obligations. And we're realizing that person is a drain. That person isn't a good fit. That person should have never been anything more than your friend, because Mars rules that 11th house. Part of you are trying to overcome certain fears tied to finances. And the way that you're going to be able to overcome those fears, again, is going to be related very much to that Venus retrograde that's going to come later this year. The new job opportunity, the shared obligation and finance change that comes through after new commitments can be made. And that's going to be energy that follows the eclipse. Some of you still have to close the book on an old chapter. If the Mars retrograde timeline, so things from last fall into this spring, has resulted in a semi-toxic relationship of some sort, that needs to be cut. And you know that because that cut has been something you've been hesitant about. You're still questioning yourself. Am I jumping the gun? Am I being too harsh? Am I being too judgmental? Am I being too much of myself and Saturnian? Probably. But there's always a reason that you're so Saturnian. That requirement, those levels of thinking, those levels of being, those levels of performing, you have high standards. You deserve to have high standards. You all, in one way, shape, or form, still have levels of PTSD that y'all ain't dealt with yet. And the thing is some of that PTSD is not just the stuff that goes all the way back to 2018 and the shit show that was going on back then. Some of you, it's based off of like the decisions that you've made in the last year, where an opportunity was in front of you, but you suddenly pumped the brakes, where there were chances to do something to grow your financial connections, to grow your influence, and grow another area of life. And that area of life was with another. And that did not happen. They had something going on and they had to walk away. You suddenly got cold feet and you pumped the brakes. I don't know what's wrong, but something's wrong. And more than likely, that would have happened somewhere between June and August. For Capricorn risings, it would have been closer to June. A lot of the time, a lot of you, it was closer to June. Because your chart ruler pumped the brakes and went retrograde in June. Now, you've had weeks of this one moment, this one event, this one idea, this one situation, this one person that keeps coming back to your mind. And they have been for weeks. That is because Mercury is retrograde. Some of you, it's a love interest. Some of you, it's people from your childhood. Some of you, it's your children that keep coming back to the forefront because something has changed between you guys over the last few years, and we need to heal it. We need to work on this area connected to family. We need to have these conversations with this person that we weren't able to stick with our connection with a year ago. And the only thing to all of that is you guys have to make the first step. You do. You have to contact that friend. You have to contact that girl. You have to contact that guy. You have to enroll in that program. You have to pick up the phone. You have to log in. You have to start it. You. You walked away. You have to restart the conversation. You have to own up to your own actions. Now, the consequences of your actions are not going to be like everybody else's. The consequences of your actions are trying to explain why you walked away, why you didn't move forward then, why you couldn't do something then. Was there a medical issue? A lot of Capricorn risings have had surgeries in the last year. A lot of you have had a series of one medical issue or another that has like grabbed your attention. And that's an easy thing to explain. I had a family member get sick. I had surgery. I needed time to heal. I didn't feel confident in committing to anything, so I didn't commit. It's not that I didn't care. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. It's not that I don't want to be with you. It's not that I don't want to travel. I don't want to go to school. I don't want this opportunity. It was the fact that at that moment, I couldn't do it. I couldn't commit, I couldn't take that action, and I couldn't do anything. And now, since Saturn has been in Pisces since March, the depths of the emotions and the depths of your regret and the depths of things that you have tried to just suppress and never think about again, Saturn plunged into the ocean and said, hey, things down there, come up here. Just hang out on my rings. It's called a little floaty. I don't know if you guys can hear, my neighbor is having a truck problem right now. And he's like right here. So if you're hearing a vehicle, I apologize. I don't know if you can hear him or not. Now you have to take steps forward. Now you have to make certain decisions. I'm ready for a commitment. I'm ready for the roommate. I am ready to take the test. I am ready to step up. I am ready to do this. This step up will happen naturally. The benefits that come through will happen naturally. But to get that started, you have to start the communication. You burned them. And you know you did. You burned them. Why would any of them come back to you and try to keep initiating something? You burned them, you walked away, you didn't commit. Now you must restart the conversation, and you will accept your lumps however necessary. Okay. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is a full moon eclipse in your 10th house, in the areas tied to career, in areas tied to your public image, in areas tied to your hopes and dreams for the future. And the thing is, for Aquarius risings, earlier this year, the last part of last year, going into the early part of this year, and the test of that Mars retrograde gave you an inkling to test your luck, to test new waters, to test something else. And that test required a shift in your mindset, a shift in the way of doing things, a shift in the way that you communicate, a shift in your message and in your branding, a shift in how you connect with certain people. Many of you either agreed to do something you've never done before, or you took certain actions and certain steps to do something specifically in career that you've never done before. You changed your field. You've upgraded your expertise. You added another line and another way of doing business. You have altered the branding of how you were doing business before to accommodate a new thing. And everything has been meant to ready and steady home and family. We've taken certain actions. We've renovated the house and now we're going to enjoy it. You made adjustments in career and you've taken on a whole new position and you went from commission sales 24 hours a day, always in hustle mode, to suddenly being a little bit more stable and a little bit more of a 9 to 5. It might not make as much money, but it's consistent and I'm home and I have more free time. And that free time allows me to put more focus in my own mental health. And it allows me to have more power over my life and my time. Pluto in your first has either been you taking new steps in personal power, or you feeling the weight of something from the past, some kind of trauma, some type of event that you never dealt with. This eclipse is meant to clear certain parts of the ledger. I don't feel like with Aquarius risings that you're going to have a bunch of issues in regards to consequences. What I do feel like a lot of the Aquarius risings are dealing with are shakeups in the routine and shakeups at work and shakeups in the things that you are doing. And some of these shakeups are affecting the family. Good, bad, or ugly, they're affecting the family. They're affecting your household. They're affecting the way that you connect. Many of you made certain steps to agree to help a spouse or a significant other or do something with another that they've never done before. At one point, you made significant changes and they supported you in that time. And now you're about to come into a whole new realization of how you will be helping them, how you will aid in their adjustment and their changes and their commitments and their new path. Because you just spent part of the last year putting yours in perspective. Now, for many of you, it will be doing the work so somebody else can get their perspective done. You are a form of support in how they can regain their personal power now that you have yours. Okay. Oh, for Pisces and Pisces rising, here is the ascendant. It's really close to Saturn right now. Babies, I love you. I do. But every time I look at a Pisces rising chart, I just feel how much weight is in your heart, how much weight is in your head, is on your shoulders, and you feel that crushing pressure of Saturn in your first, and you have been more and more and more as this year has progressed. You are feeling the first inklings of frustration of not understanding everything or feeling like something's being done behind your back. And the thing is, after Saturn moved into your first and Pluto moved into your 12th, that weight became cycles of fear, cycles of triggering, cycles of trauma, cycles of what is the word? I just lost the word I was thinking of. Anxiety, not trusting, expecting the worst. You don't even hope for the best right now. You are just expecting the worst. And the thing is, for a lot of Pisces risings, you have had traumatizing events this year. So you have no reason to hope for the best. Some of you have had areas of life that have tested your family and tested your home life. And you are starting to see how that timeline of that Mars retrograde that shook up everything at home, that made parts of home so hectic and so chaotic. Now you're starting to see how that energy has affected your kids, how that energy is affecting your relationship with your kids. Some of you are starting to have fears around kids and your children and your ability to care for them and your ability to care for yourself. The only way that Pisces risings are going to be able to get over their fears is to, one, and I hate to say it this way, have a final cut moment with the eclipse. This is an eclipse in your ninth house, how you connect to source, how you connect to the higher calling, how you connect to higher levels of authority, how you connect to your higher self, how you reach different levels of alignment. There's a religious element to this. Now, for some, you've had no choice but to start to make plans and steps into a direction you've never been before, traveling somewhere you've never been before, going to places and dealing with situations you've never dealt with before. And every time you deal with something crazier and crazier, it puts more pressure on your body, it puts more pressure on your head, more pressure on your mental health. To understand the full weight of your energy and the full weight of how to cope and the full weight of how to not rely on substance and not rely on self-medication requires you to connect. Pluto has turned retrograde in your 12th house, the unknown, the unseen, and endings. You have been triggered by some level of fear, some reoccurrence of a past event that has already occurred, and it has done a lot. It has done a lot to you. It has done a lot to your family. There has been actions tied to outside individuals. So whether it was a former partner or somewhere in business, but there have been some things tied to other people that has pushed you into darker and darker places. And for you to get out of the hole and for you to climb out of the darkness, you need support. This eclipse in your ninth house is the culmination point, the final projection, the final cut, the final wound being opened, being realized, being transmuted. To get over the fears of the unknown, you need support. And for many of you, that support is going to come through a sibling. For many of you, that support is going to come through counseling. Specifically, group counseling would be great for Pisces risings. You do well in that modality because it loosens you up and you will start to feel how your strain can also be shared. Now, the few of you that aren't feeling the weight of the world, that are able to take proper steps forward, some of you are having changes in family and changes with your kids. Kids are going to school, they're going to college, they're starting to make their new life trajectory in another direction. And in some ways, the fear that is setting in is that you're being left behind, that your purpose is no longer your purpose. And that's because it's going to be time to find new purpose, new parts in your routine, new ways to care for yourself, new adventures in care and different areas of work, and taking on new opportunities and new ideas. Some of you are going to find new purpose and new passion also with the idea of therapy, but not because you need therapy, but because you recognize how your experience and your life lessons and your ability to transmute situations can help others. And there will be some Pisces risings that will have the ability to go to some type of event or some type of therapy or some type of situation, and they're going to see how they can connect to it and how they can help and how they can be a part of it. And that will lead to mental and spiritual growth over the next year. That will lead to a whole new way of caring for yourself and caring for others throughout this year. It will upgrade parts of your life, and it will change the way that you connect with certain friends, certain loved ones, and certain colleagues, and they will see that change in you. Regretfully, with many Pisces risings, it is trying to take the steps forward to regain your own stability and your own mental health and your own way of doing things, or you are showing others how to change, how to grow, how to take the steps, how to overcome the pain and overcome the lump, so that way they don't have to feel so alone. Because the thing about healing for many of us is we've had to do so much of it alone. Those of us that have been doing that alone healing are now starting to come into a whole different area and seeing how our individual plights of needing to grow and change and heal and overcome was necessary so we could show others how to do it better, how to do it in a different way. Okay. I'm going to stop this. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. This full moon, in so many ways, is truly meant to be the consequences of your actions, or you regaining your personal power and regaining the strength to do things differently, to no longer be abused, to no longer fall into these patterns of deception and being lied to and being used and being walked all over. This is the full moon that we cut that shit out. It's done. We're done not doing it anymore. This eclipse was meant to help people break out of the fog. This eclipse is meant to show you who your tribe is, who your people are, and who isn't. If you have been the one that has been lying, if you have been the one that's been a dick, if you have been the one that has been trying to pull the wool over other people's eyes and find a way to do quick money as opposed to doing the work for long-term money, finding a way to do a quick fix as opposed to actually healing, that's going to be the consequences that come through. The things that will hit, the things that will get stirred, the cuts that will get made. Oh, baby. This eclipse energy is the start to a whole adjustment, a whole different way of doing things, because these are Mars-ruled eclipses. And Mars is no bullshit. That is our drive. That is our ambition. That is our desire and our will to that desire, our willpower. And the thing about Mars is, baby, he's armed all the time, because that's the god of war. That's why we make cuts. That's why we trim the fat. That's why we pull things back. That's why we take certain things apart. This eclipse and this full moon is truly going to be a representation of the full consequences of actions and the lies and the deception that have been told over the course of the last year, coming back to bite people in the ass. And I can't wait to see more of that. And notice I said more. Oh, babe, this week has been crazy, and it's not even hit the eclipse yet. I can't even make that up. For some people, it's going to be exactly that. For others, it is going to be that final moment, that breakthrough, that inkling of support. The right person comes through, the right person cleans the slate, puts things into perspective. They tell you the truth, they tell you the facts, and you finally see how you can get your personal power back. How having the right person on your side, having the right situation on your side, having the right tools under your belt, you can be unstoppable once you regain your personal power. For the few that have been in healing for so long, for the few that have done so much work in these last few years during that first round of awakenings, because that's what occurred through 2020 and 2021, the first rounds of awakenings. Those that did the actual work, not the trendy side, not the, oh, I'm love and light. Tell me about your shadow. Tell me about your healing. Tell me your trauma. Tell me what you fixed. Oh, and usually a lot of the light people haven't done the work. They can be triggered to start to do the work. they can be triggered into their dark night of the soul, and they will be given no choice but to do the work. For the ones that have been doing the work, though, this is you stepping into your new role of power, into your new place, and how you support others and get them past the gaslighting and past the egos and past the narcissistic behavior and past the egocentric bullshit that has been so riddled across the board for so many years. We're so sick of fake, inauthentic energy. And it is time to show everybody what an authentic motherfucker looks like, what a real spiritual G looks like. That's going to follow. The people that have been in power and abusing power and doing things that are abusing people, they won't be able to continue to abuse their power for very long. The people that can actually hold that power, that understand the trauma, that have done the work, that can build true levels of support within others, they're coming up. It's a whole different ball game after this eclipse. Final cuts this week, and new inklings, new connections start to follow. First, very, very small, but they will get big very quickly. The momentum will pick up very quickly after the eclipse, after the final cuts, after this final trim of that big old juicy piece of fat. It's time for the steak. I hope you're not vegan, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you are. I am not. I am a carnivore. All right, babies. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I hope everybody has a good eclipse. And if you don't have a good eclipse, I hope you have the eclipse that helps you get your power back. I love and appreciate every single one of you. And if I have to record this episode for a 7th time, I will probably be screaming in the next one. I'm so sorry. But I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much, and subscribe.